Well, hello and welcome back to the Middlemen Podcast, where we've got a little bit of a celebrity on our hands. He's fresh from DAZN. He's fresh from Cardiff, where he worked on the Cordina fight with the main man, Eddie Hearn. He shepherded Tony Bellew to his suite. We've got Max Taylor from Max Taylor Sportsgram in our presence. So, Max, it's great to be back with you all. Hi, Max. Hi, everyone. Back with the Middlemen Podcast, talking boxing, talking football. We'll touch on Chelsea, our teams, Chelsea and Liverpool, and Cordina, and a few others too. Max, let's go back to that Joe Cordina fight. He wins back his IBF belt against Shavkat Rakhimov. There's a whole story around it. We'll go through the tail of the tape soon. What I really want to know, though, Max, is what were you doing there, and what was it like working for DAZN?
Yeah, a fantastic experience. I think you might have picked me up a bit too much there, mate, but I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. Yeah, just the running gig, keeping crew and talent happy on Saturday. That was my job. But backstage access, all the names. I feel like a lot of crew, they do it. Their job is just to broadcast. Seeing all the talent doesn't really overwhelm them like it does with me, but because obviously I love the sport and all those kind of people, figures are such a big deal to me. I watch them on my phone day in, day out, and so much content produced around years. So it was just a fantastic experience and a barrier that I kind of broke through there in the lead up for the fight as well, working with BBTV at the press conference, doing what I love, doing some reporting. Yeah, just an incredible few days last week. And as you said, to be the icing on the cake, Cordina getting his belt back. So yeah, really great experience. I have really random, useless knowledge in the sense that I know Tony Bellew's Nandos order now.
Oh, go on.
Not many people could probably say they do.
Go on.
So he likes, so obviously a cruiserweight. He's got a pleasure that 4 chicken thighs, peri salted chips, broccoli, nice long stem. That's a nice touch. And he was going to get a butterfly chicken as well. They didn't have it on the menu, so I thought I was going to feel the wrath of Tony Bellew, but he was like, "Nah, lad, just chuck on some 4 more thighs." So I was like, "I sound."
Wait, so you were getting Tony Bellew's Nandos order. You were the one sorting it out for him.
Yes, mate. Yeah, you should have seen me on the way back from Starbucks with his coffee as well. 7 coffees. He wasn't drinking them all. A lot of them were for the crew as well.
Right.
But I was juggling 7 coffees, and Donnie on the bike was outside with the Nandos, so I was sprinting back. Had to carry a Nandos bag and 7 coffees. I don't know how I did it, but for Tony, I found a way. But yeah, great night. He's a great crack, and yeah, just something I'll never forget.
What's your Nandos order?
I like to switch it up often. I'm not a fan of. I was going to say I'm not a fan of consistency there, but I like change. That's a better way to put it.
Okay.
So I normally like a hot chicken grilled wrap, but I'll switch it up. If I want to get a bit messy, get my hands a bit dirty, I'll go with a sunset burger. And I like a Fino pizza as well. I've had a Fino with you, I remember, up in Edgware Nandos. Another great selection on their menu. A lot of people scrutinize me for having my stuff in bread, and they just say you should just have your chicken on the plate. But I like carbs in it too.
I'm with you. I think you got to have a bit of bread with your Nando. That Edgeware Nando story was great. We were doing the GB Olympic qualifiers, the Team GB boxing qualifiers, and we all had our GB tracksuits on. We walk into this Nando's. I think people just presume that we were Team GB athletes, just stuffing our faces. Yeah, I'm with you on the burger. And with Tony on the broccoli. Broccoli and Nando's is a great shout. So yeah, my Nando's orders is fairly similar. But butterfly burger, medium with peri chips and garlic bread or broccoli. So that's the order. If you want to win yourself a Nando's date with me or Max, then just comment and we'll see if we can sort it out. But let's go to the boxing. And
we're that desperate, yeah.
We are that desperate. Let's do the tail of the tape for Cordina. In case you don't know, he's got this really interesting story where essentially broke his wrists. Broke his. Well, he damaged his hand, didn't he? Cracked his knuckle. He cracked it really bad. Lost out on the belts because of it, and now he's won them back. So last summer he fought Kenichi Ogawa, and he won with this perfect punch on this really hot night, a perfect knockout. He won the belts. So then he agrees to fight Rakhimov, meant to go ahead in November in Abu Dhabi, and it didn't because Cordina hurt his hand when he was back in the gym in August. So they stripped him of his belts, the IBF, and then the belts went to Rakhimov, who won the vacant title, and they were Joe's belts, and that was that. So this was Cordina's chance to put it right. Eddie Hearn, you got to take your hat off to Eddie Hearn, made the deal with Rakhimov, brought him to Cardiff, which was insane, 5,000 people, and in the end, Cordina got his belts back. He dropped Rakhimov in round 2, dropped him in round 7, and he was relentless, wasn't he? I thought he looked tired at the end, but if you're going to fight the way he did, then you're bound to. I'm really happy for Joe. I think it could even be a fight of the year contender. I thought Rakhimov stood his ground, but never really looked in control. What do you think? His eye was bad, wasn't it? What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I love the way that you added the context to that to the fight, because as you said, there's a lot of a big backstory there and a really big arc for Cordina. I had obviously a great view to watch it, but it did make me realize why there are so many mixed opinions, especially with people who watch about inside the venue and then people who watch it on TV. I think with TV, you are so much better suited to see angles and see things that you might actually not catch when you're just watching it inside the venue. But yeah, I had to watch it back again to see if it was the fight like I thought I had watched, which it was. I think you're spot on there. Rakhimov, just such a volume puncher, and I said he's a bit of a throwback fighter because just the way his combination punching is, and his offense is so free flowing. There is absolutely zero caution, which Joe obviously made him pay for. But he lets those hands go. It's not 1-2 and a regroup. It's 6, a body to head, and it's beautiful the way he boxes. But Joe's footwork and his defense as well. He caught some big shots. He did take some big shots.
Do you think
it's nice to see his chin tested? Because like in another fight that we're going to talk about, which happened later that night, there's always a bit of an unknown when you see a great fighter whose chin hasn't been checked. So it was great to see him come through that kind of adversity, and Rakhimov just didn't let up. But Cordina's footwork, the angles he produced, and the cleaner shots that he was landing, he found a way to get over a very, very durable and a very game Rakhimov.
Do you think Joe should have stopped it in round 7 though? And Rakhimov, again, credit to him, did really well to stay in the fight. His eye was bad. He could see through it though. But there was that triplet of shots from Joe, the flurry of right hands to Rakhimov's right eye, and it just, you could see every time he hit Rakhimov, the swelling on the eye got worse. Think he should have stopped it? Think it shouldn't have gone to split decision in the end?
Well, given I think the consensus is in the opinion that obviously is very deserved from Cordina, but there have been a few split decisions, which I think is just ridiculous, because one of those scorecards was 116-111 to Rakhimov, which is just absolutely criminal. But a lot of people still, and he went on and continued to win a couple of rounds after that. So it's a hard one to say. I think because he got through it, I think you can say that was a good decision, but it could have definitely ended worse. I think it was the right thing to let it continue. But yeah, Joe was sticking it on him, and as you said, you can hear those punches at the venue as well, and you can kind of see the effect that it has on the fighter. And as you said, Joe very tired in the 12th round, but still rallied to give it a great finish. Those guys did not stop punching each other until the final bell, which is, as you said, fight of the year contender for sure.
See, I agree with you. I thought Joe put up a really good fight. I think headlines and newspapers have been a little bit unkind to it. I'll read you a headline I saw today when I was going back over the fight. Joe Cordina wins savage struggle. with Rakhimov, which I didn't think it was. I mean, you were there. It's interesting what you said about watching on TV compared to in person. I think watching football in person, you see more than you do on TV. I agree with you. Watching boxing, you obviously see more because usually, unless you are ringside, you are pretty far away from the ring. But yeah, some interest. It was a tough night for Joe, probably his toughest fight of his life. But still, I thought the headlines were a little bit unkind. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say a struggle. I think they just trying to look at it from the journalistic perspective. I think they wanted a alliteration on that headline, so it's probably why they opted for those words. But yeah, as you said, definitely the hardest fight of his career. And yeah, he made him struggle at times. And Joe never looked. Joe was never cruising, but was, I think, the way, obviously apart from the rounds that he lost, he always in control and always seemed like he was winning. So there was still a kind of bit of assertion from him, I think. It's not like we were heading into the 12th round and I was thinking, which way is this going to go? It wasn't that tight. But Rakhimov 100% made him work for it.
Could you watch the fight? Were you able to watch it as the runner then?
Yeah, so I was by the stage where they walked out. It was amazing to obviously see his entrance. I was right next to it, so see him walk out with David Yu and Tuamau Heed. Very meaningful to a Welsh person. I'm English, but obviously being from Wales and understanding the culture, that is huge. And everyone doing the Ayatollah as well as he walked down. But yeah, I was like just next the stage, so I could kind of see it at a really clear view. It was obstructed sometimes, security guards were all taller than me, but yeah, I had a decent view. I wasn't ringside for it, but I could see how the fight was playing out.
Yeah, it was a great fight, and 5,000 people there as well, and it was again another showcase of British boxing that was really well put on. And we'll touch more on British boxing in a bit. We wanted to talk about Tank Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia as well, which is also a fight that's happened recently. I know it very much interests you, and it should interest you as well because it was a great bout that Ryan Garcia didn't come out of particularly well. Davis just adds another win to his CV, and I thought Tank was dominant. It was that 7th round stoppage, wasn't it, where Garcia went down, but there was almost a delay in going down. Actually, I wanted to talk about delays with you. I think there was a big delay in the Cordina fight, wasn't there, with the split decision. But going back to Tank Garcia, to be honest, without even going into the fight too heavily or too crazily, I thought Garcia just wasn't ready. I think he just jumped into that big fight too early, and he sort of skipped a few paces to get there. And Tank showed him who was boss, and it was a relatively dominant display bar a couple of rounds.
Yeah, I think experience levels were just the overall difference of that fight, and you gotta respect Ryan for, I'm not gonna say daring to be great, because these are the fights that should be making. I don't want to put it on a pedestal and make it seem like they're doing something that no fighters are. Like, I want to encourage this and have boxers do this more often. But such a risky fight for Ryan, probably more so than Tank. Obviously, there was things about the rehydration clause, and McGregor was in his dressing room after saying it with no rehydration clause, even though obviously Ryan up to 140, but Tank is naturally lighter, and it's just, I think 136 was a good catch weight for them, and to me didn't necessarily play a part. What I have to say about Garcia, the respect, I had a great amount of respect for him before, but seeing how he conducted himself afterwards, every time he thought he was bordering on what would sound like an excuse to the media, he completely stopped himself and said, "I'm not making an excuse here." And then it's not like how some boxers do and say, "I'm not going to excuse my performance," and then list it off like Jake Paul after the Tommy Fury fight. Yeah. He was so honest with himself and to the media, and was like, "I'm not making excuses," that he beat me fair and square, and he did. It was, seeing Tank box like that, obviously it's what he's capable of, but to see him really show it against a really tough opponent and a huge opponent. Obviously, DAZN were calling it the fight for the face of boxing. I think that's bigging it up a bit too much, but obviously a really, really big fight for the pair of them, legacy defining fight. But Ryan being 24 and having that inexperience, I think will treat him well for his career. It would be a lesson that he's learned, and yeah, I think it can only help him improve.
I think quite similarly to Savannah Marshall, who after a loss to Shields was very reflective and learned about the loss, and she wanted to improve from her mistakes. Unlike someone like Jake Paul or Chris Eubank Jr. But you're right. I thought Ryan Garcia handled it very well. Like I said, I think he was inexperienced. Like you said, I think perhaps less mature and a little bit out of his depth as well. He deserves praise for taking the fight. And to be honest, why wouldn't you take that fight, especially if you think you've got a chance of winning? I thought he just looked tired going into it, and it was the right outcome, obviously. And Tank looks pretty much unstoppable. Quickly, I said we'd go back to it. What was the delay with the Cordina scoring? There was a big delay, wasn't there? Or it looked that way on TV.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure what that is. I didn't actually notice that. Weirdly enough, I just thought because I was in the venue, if that's normally how long it takes, and I just don't pay that on TV. But yeah, there was something about gathering the scorecards. I don't know if that has any kind of correlation to the dodgy scorecard in favor of Rakhimov, but yeah, I mean, you picked up that delay. I didn't even notice that. I think I was a bit too excited for them to read it and announce Cordina as the winner, so I wasn't probably paying as much attention to that.
Well, yeah, that's the advantage of watching on TV, especially in boxing. You get those little things, and like I said, I think in football actually you can see more when you are pitch side or when you're there. You can see the little knocks and niggles compared to what you see on TV. What we will be seeing on TV very soon, 17th of June, is the rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Smith. Now, I think this fight will be more built up than the first. I think already it feels like it's bigger than the first fight because there's more to fight for now. We spoke about the way boxers react and athletes react after losses. Chris Eubank says he enjoyed the loss to Liam Smith because it was something new. I think Chris Eubank is full of hot air quite a lot of the time. But this is an interesting bout, isn't it? It's going to be explosive. It's going to be bitter. Chris Eubank's the one who activated the rematch clause. He was the one that insisted there was a rematch clause. He says he's determined to come back stronger. And Smith says, well, if you blame the referee for the last fight, then you'll be slaughtered in this one. He says people who fancy Chris are the ones who think I couldn't fight a 160. I think it was pretty clear that last fight that Liam Smith won, that he was the better boxer. And to be honest, I back him again, Max.
Yeah, I don't know how in somebody's right mind can you go with Eubank Jr. And if you guys are of that opinion, I want to hear why, because it was such a conclusive result. It's an early knockout victory, and obviously, Eubank being prideful and there being a rematch clause in that, of course he's going to activate that, but I just don't understand how else this fight is going to... I don't know how you watch the first one and then develop an understanding that it's going to go differently this time. I think it's an absolute detriment to his health that Chris Eubank Jr. is still fighting at 160 pounds. I thought he would know that for his own sake, after that performance, that he's way too drained to be boxing at this weight, especially for his age. He's fought at 168 pounds. So then to come back down to it, obviously, he was initially preparing for the Conor Benn fight. But at 33 or however old he is, to do that to your body, I just think he's going to be so drained for it. And I think it's going to be as savage of a finish, or if not more of a savage one from Smith on them.
Yeah, I don't see it going any other way. I really don't. I think it's going to be Smith who puts in a pretty impactful performance. Do you think the reason Eubank said he wants to go for it again because he doesn't want just the loss on his record. He wants to make amends for it. Do you think there's more there? Do you think it is that Eubank name that he's Yeah, I think Chris Eubank is still known, and perhaps it's different with Conor Benn now, but I think it was different with Conor Benn, or maybe it felt a little bit different with Ben. And you've got Hatton. You've got a few that are sort of making their own strides now. Do you think Chris, he's still got that on his shoulder, that chip on his shoulder, that it's not the Chris Eubank Jr. show? It's still, people still think of Chris Eubank and still think of his dad.
Yeah, I think just the way that they've gone about themselves publicly, I think Eubank Jr. will always be synonymous with his father. Just like even when it comes to like Gogglebox appearances, do you know what I mean? But just because of that, people just directly and things like that, they just directly associate those two together. And as you said, it's different with Conor Benn. Conor Benn, I'm not going to say neglected his family, but he went out he trained here, and obviously Nigel lives out in Australia, so they had that separation, and it's something that the Eubanks have never had, or never had to that degree. I know obviously Junior would go out and train in America with Roy Jones Jr., but yeah, his father always a part of his legacy, and I think he probably told him, go and get your get back. You always got to appreciate a boxer for, especially after being knocked out, saying I'm going to go again. That takes a lot. Someone else would get knocked down and be like, oh well, I'm not going to go near him. So you have to give Eubank Jr. kudos for that at least.
Yeah, you do. One fight that won't go again is Marshall Shields, which is a shame because it was a history-making fight. That'll be on the same night as Eubank Smith. Let's talk Savannah Marshall. She's got another world title shot, an undisputed super middleweight world title shot against Franchon Cruz Dezern, and that'll be the co-main event. Marshall hasn't lost since the Shields defeat in October, but she'll be hungry to get those. She'll be hungry to be back on that stage. And as for Cruz Dezern, I mean, she holds all 4 titles, and she's only lost once. Guess to who? What have they got in common? Lost to Shields in 2016. So
Claressa Shields, yeah.
Claressa Shields, who is undoubtedly the GOAT. But yeah, Savannah Marshall headlining that event. That'd be great to see.
Yeah, for sure. There's actually a snippet that I saw of the super middleweight champion. I don't want to butcher her name out of respect, but yeah, she was saying like she gave Savannah a bit of a reality check on the mic, and it was quite cool, to see. Obviously, for us British fans, we know Savannah a lot better than we do the super middleweight champ. So she kind of put her mark on that conference and put on that fight and said, hey, this isn't no Savannah. These are my belts, and if you think that it's just going to be easy, cool run-ins for you, then you're in for a bad night. And I think that was nice and honest of her, and it really built up some hype for that as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That will be a great night of boxing, 17th of June, I think that is. So be a great night of boxing, and one we can all look forward to. Let's round off the podcast with a bit of football talk. Your team seemingly clawing their way back out of the mud. Mine, as a Chelsea fan, just slipping deeper and deeper and deeper into trouble and into that muddy puddle that we can't seem to get out of. And Ted Bolly's solution is, let's bring in Maurizio Pochettino. And I mean, I think most people who know me know that I really, really dislike Maurizio Pochettino, not as a person because I've never met him, but I think he's the most overrated manager in world football. If you look back through his records, he got sacked at Espanyol, went to Southampton, did well, fair play, went to Spurs. 5 years at Spurs. What did he win? Won nothing. Gets into a Champions League final, gets his formation all wrong, they get butchered in the first 2 minutes, and that was that against your lot. Then goes to PSG, and you and I could win the league title at PSG. They've got Neymar and Messi and Mbappe. We could, me, you, and the Journo lads could win the league at PSG. Pochettino, and that's all he did. He didn't win a Champions League there. Pochettino is the most overrated manager in world football. He's not what Chelsea need. Chelsea need a new manager. It can't be Frank Lampard next season because Frank Lampard is making even more of a mess at Chelsea. To be fair to Frank, to Super Frank, he's got a squad that I don't think anyone could handle. But Chelsea are a right mess. No number 9. Aubameyang doesn't really count. Havertz is poor. Enzo looks shoddy. Mudryk, what a talent, what a waste. He just can't seem to get it right. Said it all season. I think Sterling's great and James is pretty good too. James has been outstanding. But anyway, it's going on a bit of a rant here. Sorry. I'm just really, really not happy as a Chelsea fan, Max.
Sounds like you needed to get that off your chest, Noah. It's probably been built up for about 5 losses ago, but understandable why you feel that way. Of course, don't think anyone wants to be a Chelsea fan at the moment. Such talent in that team, as you were saying, that those big names there. I think from what I've seen, Fernandes, that talent is apparent. It's just a case of making it work with the others, and I think bringing in all the players that you have has just made that task so much more harder to do, and makes it harder for a manager and a type of manager to be able to do that. I think only a rare one can make such a big squad full of egos gel together.
Yeah, look, the problem is Chelsea's been run like an NFL team, which doesn't work in English football. You can't have massive amounts of personnel and expect it to gel, like you just said. We need a manager, we need to clear out, and things need to change at Chelsea. And very quickly, Liverpool, your team, do pretty well. They're not going for the title this year, though. City and Arsenal gunning for it. Quickly, City or Arsenal? Who do you think?
City now. I think, Arsenal getting the results I had before the City game. It's just the squad depth. I said that at the start of the season as well. I was starting to believe Arsenal were going to do it because they weren't showing too many cracks. But then it's just been a bit of a bad run of form, isn't it? And that squad depth, you're not going to win a league title, Rob Holding, at the end of the day. And that's where it comes in. You start Saliba. If you don't have Saliba, you've got Rob Holding. It's a massive gap in ability, and it's something they'll rectify next season. I'd love to see them go again. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see them win it over City, but it's just not looking like that.
You're not going to win a Premier League title with Rob Holding. Wise words from Max Taylor, as always. Thank you very much for listening to the Middlemen Podcast this week. We'll end it on that. Poor Rob Holding. He's got a brilliant goal against City, actually. But was poor. He gave away the first one. To be fair. But anyway, great to speak to you guys. Thanks very, very much for listening, and we will catch up soon.